doing this in a white shirt, I'm not sure that this was the smartest thing to do. Guys, I think I'm done with this series, and I am super excited. If you're new here, my name's Adana, and I am an oil painter. The last couple weeks, I have been sharing a series basically called Painting in a Series, where I'm creating a series of paintings to embody one similar body of work, and I have been sharing the process here on YouTube. I started those paintings. I have completed all of the paintings with the exception of one. I just did it last evening, and so I need the paint to kind of set a bit so that I can go in with fix a couple minor details, but for the most part I need the painting to dry for that. But for the most part, I'm done. I'm done with most or the majority of the painting process. And so I thought, okay, if I've come up with the ideas, if I have gotten started, if I've actually finished all the paintings, what actually comes next? And I thought I would tell you guys about what I'm planning to do when I'm doing a painting series and what I think that are the next steps. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned. So what I'm gonna do first is, I think I need to reflect and just kind of look at the work and make sure that it actually looks cohesive. I have worked on all of them individually. Obviously, I don't really paint multiple paintings at a time. I kind of just do one from mostly start to finish, and then maybe add details here and there if I feel like something's missing later on. But for the most part, I do it from start to finish. What I want to do is actually look at all of them, put them all on my table here, and just look at the work. Like, is there harmony? Is there consistency? Do they work well together? Are there any that kind of are sticking out in a way that's not good? Like sticking out like a sore thumb, or shining a little too brightly from the rest of the paintings in the series. I just want to kind of make sure that it looks cohesive, both in color choices, brushwork, background choices. This is my last and final opportunity to cull from the series, to pull things away, to add things, to create more cohesion if I need to. I have already decided that 2 of the paintings, unfortunately, are not going to make it in the series. I intended to do a series of 10. 2 of them were just like, no, girl. No, we're not gonna be a part of it. So I've already taken those out, but I want to look at the remaining 8 and see if they work well together, if they're playing well together. I'm gonna be asking myself some pretty big questions. Do these paintings tell the story I wanted to tell? Does the energy flow through the series the way I envisioned it when I did my studies? Is there a unifying theme? Because looking at them now, I want to see if all of the elements come together cohesively. I want to understand, is there balance? Is there contrast? Am I conveying the emotions that I wanted? Sometimes as artists, we get too close to the work and we can't see it clearly anymore. So this reflection process is pretty important. And it's not just about the critique, it's about appreciating what I've done as well. I can't be too hard on myself. I have completed something meaningful and something that came from within me. So that in and of itself is worth celebrating. Okay, so I've looked at the work. The work works well together and looks good. So the next step that I'm going to do is I would like to come up with an artist statement. I want to come up with painting titles. And so I need to not only reflect on the work, but also reflect on what it means to me. What do I actually want to convey with this work in written form? Basically, I want to be able to describe the work in a way that someone can read the statement and then can say, oh, okay, I see what you were trying to go for. I see what you were doing. Hopefully it makes sense to them. But for the most part, I want to kind of think through, what does this work mean to me, and how do I explain that to someone that's viewing it? I'm going to do some journaling. I'm going to figure out a little bit of that, and then, we'll move on to the next step. So once I'm satisfied with the reflection and any final touches that I want to make, the next thing that I'm going to do is to write an artist statement. And let me be honest, this is kind of hard for me. Talking about my own work, putting my thoughts into words, it can be very vulnerable, but it is necessary. If people are going to connect with this series, I need to tell them why it matters. So I'll be writing about the inspiration behind the work, what sparked the idea, what emotions I was trying to capture, and what I was exploring during the creation process. The technical details are important too, but the feeling behind the work is what I really want to communicate. What was I trying to say with these colors, these brushstrokes? What did I want the viewer to feel when they looked at the paintings? This artist statement would help guide them through that experience. I want them to understand the story that I've told, or I've tried to tell, throughout these paintings. Okay, so now that I have gone through and journaled and figured out my artist statement, which I'm really proud of, it actually came to me pretty fluidly, and I just can't wait to talk about all of the individual pieces and like how I came up with the titles and all that stuff. But anyway, the next step that we're going to take is to actually sign these things. So I have this like weird, I don't know, not deja vu, what's the word? I don't know, it feels like almost like a sense of like bad luck or something. That's not quite it, but I feel weird about signing my work when I'm not like done with it. If I think that I'm gonna go back and make any tweaks or changes, like I feel weird about signing it, even if it's like my work and I'm taking ownership of it. I don't want to take ownership of it until it's like done. Does that make sense? Is that weird? I don't know. But I feel really good, in a really good spot with these paintings. And so I am moving forward with signing them. I've already come up with all the titles. So it just feels like it's done, and it's at a point where I can kind of put my John Hancock on it, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sign both the front and the back. I'm probably going to sign the front first, or I'm going to show you the signing of the front first. I don't like putting my actual signature on the front of the panels or the paintings. I feel like it can be a bit distracting. I don't want to really distract from the paintings. I want them to kind of stand on their own. So, but I do want to have some sort of mark to indicate that these are paintings that Adana has painted. So if anyone sees them, they can say, okay, I'm familiar with that little mark. I know this is one of her paintings. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to do it in oil paint, and I'll show you guys a little bit of the process of me doing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to need my oil paint. So let me grab that first. Now that I've done all of that reflective work, and I've come up with all of the titles, the next thing I'm going to do is sign and date each painting. This feels like a particularly important ritual to me. It's about taking ownership of the work, acknowledging that it is mine, and putting a mark of authenticity on each piece. Now, I know that some artists prefer to keep their work unsigned for different reasons, but for me, signing kind of feels like closing the loop. It's a way of saying, this is finished and it's ready to be seen. I feel like doing this in a white shirt, I'm not sure that this was the smartest thing to do, but I'm also not going to change the shirt, so I just want to let you know that you probably should not do this in a white shirt. Change my mind. I actually think I'm going to make it a little bit, I want it to be more, I try to put my signature in a spot that feels right, but it's not too obviously hidden either. I want it to be a subtle part of the composition. I'm also going to date them. Not just because it helps with future reference, but because each piece represents a moment in time for me. So helping me to kind of ground myself and understand and look back on my pieces and know exactly when I completed them, also within the context of what was going on in my life at the moment. I want to remember when I created these. I want to remember the space I was in, the headspace I was in when I finished these works. It's a way of documenting my artistic journey, kind of like a personal time capsule in a sense. So another thing that we need to do kind of falls within the realm of preparing the work to be presented, I guess I'll say. So I've already done the signatures on most of the paintings except for the one that's behind me. While these are drying, even though I did use a medium that would kind of quicken the drying time, I guess, I still need to wait for them to dry before I can varnish. So varnishing would be technically the next step that I would take in order to make these, presentation ready. I also do need to think about framing, and I also need to photograph the work. In terms of framing, I kind of went back and forth of how I wanted to frame it, if I even wanted to put them in frames. And I think that because they're panels, I think it's best to put them in frames. I was trying to decide between what kind of framing I wanted to use. I think a nice floater frame is just kind of universal, and most people enjoy floater frames. So I personally like them. And so, yeah, I think that it just would make sense to use floater frames. I also think that most of the work would look good in floater frames. The question then is what colors? The natural oak and the walnut. Natural oak, I don't know, I kept going back and forth, honestly. It was really a toss-up, but I think that the natural oak would just lend itself to a more variety of the painting, so it can work with all of them, whereas like the walnut might not work with some. I think it would work better with like some of the darker toned or the darker colored paintings, but maybe not so much with the lighter ones. So next, after I figured out the framing bit of it, I do need to photograph all of the work, and I'm going to photograph it both outside of the frame and then also within the frame, so people can kind of see what it's going to look like when they receive it. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Let's be safer about this. As the signatures dry, I do need to think about how these paintings are going to be presented. And this is where the whole process feels like it's really becoming real. These paintings aren't just mine, they're about to go out into the world. So as I mentioned, I want to make sure they're properly framed, and I want the framing to enhance each piece, not distract from it. It is amazing how much the right frame can elevate a painting. I have spent so much of this time focusing on the work itself, the textures, the layers, but now I need to think about the borders, the way the light will hit the surface, how the frame will complement the colors in each painting. I also want to make sure that I capture that in a photo. So I want to get high quality photographs of the paintings. I mean, I've taken some quick shots here and there, work in progress and things like that, but I want these images to do justice to the work. A professional photographer, a good camera, those details matter. If I want to put these online or if I want to use them for prints, you can decide how much you want to invest in photography. But ultimately, if I'm going to get people excited about this series, I want to make sure that the photos represent the paintings accurately. There's no room for poor lighting or blurry images when you're showcasing your hard work. All right, so this is where things get a little interesting. Or I guess if you're me and you're shy, this is where things kind of can be a little scary. But it's when you think about how we're going to actually share all of the paintings that we made. So as someone that is not gallery represented, it's kind of like, okay, what are some ways in which I can actually share my work? And I think there are a couple of different ways. One, you can just kind of share your work in your home, and just maybe the purposes for you of creating a series is just to have it in your home. But yeah, you can post it on Instagram, you can post it on Pinterest. You can also post it on your website or some sort of like a portfolio site in order to share your work and just kind of send folks the link, which I'm planning on doing. You can also, share it on YouTube. I'm personally going to be doing that. I am working with Ann Livingston Art and a bunch of other artists across the world where we're going to be doing a virtual gallery show. It will be hosted, like I said, by Ann Livingston Art, and it's going to be titled Series Under the Same Sky, which is essentially all of us artists. We all happen to be women, by the way, but all artists of different ages and just different walks of life are going to be sharing our art. And yeah, it's not going to be a YouTube live. It is going to be a pre-recorded kind of show. And so I will, whenever I get the link, I will share that probably on a community post here on my channel, so that you can be able to see some of the work that is being presented, not only just by me, but also by some of the other artists as well. In addition to that, another great way to share your work is actually through your email newsletter. So if you don't know, I have an email newsletter and I'm really excited about it. And so yeah, this video obviously in this series is not sponsored, but if there's gonna be any sponsor for this entire series, it's gonna be myself, and it is to consider signing up for my email newsletter. I'm really excited about building up that, and I think that's gonna be a great way to share a lot more of my art in the future. I'm really excited to use that to be able to kind of go into more depth about some of the titles that I've created, like kind of the intentions and the reasonings why, and also get a little bit more deeper into the series as a whole and some of the thoughts, the rationale, the perspectives I had while I was creating this series. I'm really excited to kind of share that in more of a written form, and I think written form would be a little bit better rather than just me sitting and talking to a camera to talk about it. So yeah, it's gonna be filled with lots of great stuff, and I'm excited to share in the written form, what I'm thinking and my process in terms of art making. So that is it. That is what typically happens after you have completed a painting series or a series of paintings. It is a ton of work. It's a lot of reflection. It's a lot of digging deep. It's a lot of anticipating, how people are going to react and what people are going to think about your work. So it is a little bit uncomfortable to just kind of do a lot of that self-reflection work. But I'm really excited. I love, this part of the process because it means that I'm done, and it means that I'm ready to take on whatever comes next. But I really did enjoy creating this series and taking you along the journey. But I definitely want to still plug, we have one more video left in this video series. So stay tuned for next week's video, where I'll talk about, more in a reflective manner, where it all started on the couch, and talk about like what I actually learned from doing a painting series. So if you liked this video and you want to see more, definitely hit the like button, and then also subscribe for more. And also check out the link in my description for my email newsletter. I'm really excited to share more on that platform as well. Without further ado, I will see you next week. Bye.